I'm Leo. I'm Senior Interaction Manager at Atlantic Records. And I kind of want to talk about how I got here today and also the history of the tools we've used at Atlantic Records, but also how we're using XD today. So like I said, I'm Senior Manager of Interaction Design at Atlantic Records. And that's just a really complicated way of saying that I work on websites, e-commerce pages, one-off experiences like games and ads, and even AR lenses for our artists and our label. But I also want to step back and explain to you how I got to where I am, because I do think that's important. And it was a lot of luck, yes, but also a lot of hard work. I'm from Miami, and I had the privilege of going to a design high school where I focused on architecture. Actually, that was the plan for me for a long time. Even when I applied to colleges, I applied to SCAD even, and actually was an interesting way about how I found out about SCAD. You guys did an installation in 2007, your architecture team, and I got a DVD, and I was like, okay, I'm applying to SCAD. However, I ended up kind of, shifting gears here a little bit, but I ended up going to Parsons in New York City. And that was the plan for me for a long time. I wanted to go to New York City and become an architect. So when going to Parsons, we had a we had year of like trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And after a conversation with my uncle, and maybe he didn't think he knew that I had broader interests. He also happened to be an architect, and he said, maybe you should follow your instincts and take a leap of faith. So that's exactly what I did. And I switched over to communication design. And it was an interesting transition there. But I did learn a lot of important things at Parsons. One of them, obviously, is skills. You basically learn that at any college. But another thing was, don't pigeonhole yourself. For the longest time there, I had this preconceived notion of what I wanted to do as a graphic designer. I wanted to join an agency. I wanted to do print, and I wanted to do album covers. And I was really like stuck in that. And, I just want to say that there's not one path that fits all. Because if I had gone that route, I don't know if I'd be where I am today, but also I don't know if I'd be as happy as I am today. And then the other thing is make connections. I know you've heard that a lot, make connections. But I do think that's important. And that's part of my story. You never know when a friend will be your next big break or when you'll have the opportunity to pay that back to them. So I want to take a minute here to explain how that worked out for me. I got an internship. I didn't particularly like the internship. I found it off of Craigslist. So, but I knew that I had to intern. That was part of the plan. So while not liking this internship, I found myself eating outside a lot, and I was a typical millennial. And thanks Adobe stock for the photo. But I was eating a Cobb salad, try to avoid talking to anyone at this internship. When I get a text message from a friend, she basically says, hey, I'm an intern at Atlantic Records, and I'm ending my internship here, and they need people. Are you interested? And I thought, yeah, of course I'm interested. I want to work at Atlantic Records. I want to make covers. I want to do print. I want to make posters. But there was one issue for me. And that was that it was an interaction internship position. And that wasn't quite what I was looking for. But I figured, why not? I'll get my foot in the door and maybe I'll finagle my way into making covers, making basically what I want. So I applied. And then nothing for a whole year, actually. But that kind of ended up being a blessing in disguise, because as part of Parsons' communication design program, I had to take an interaction course. And I kind of dug myself out of that pigeonhole, because at first I had this preconceived notion about what UX and what web design was, but that was quickly broken for me thanks to my teachers. I found out that I could basically break as many rules as I can, but also that this like tech was emerging, and there's something satisfying and gratifying about the putting something up online and having it live there, no matter how ridiculous it is. I, made websites for The Rock's catchphrases. I made websites for cats. I even brought a little bit of music into what I was doing. So I figured out interaction was fun for me. I really had a good time. I could do like, wacky, like crazy things, and people really enjoyed that. It wasn't just, your basic product page or your basic e-commerce page. So with that in mind, I needed a job. So I took a part-time job off of school, and I didn't really like that job. It was an IT position at the school itself, actually. And the plan was for me to stay there after graduation until I found a job. And again, I find myself eating a Cobb salad outside, just, during my lunch break. And then I get an email, I get a letter, and it's from Atlantic Records. And basically they say, hey, we actually were restructuring how we were doing things, and we're so sorry to get back to you this late. But if you still want to apply, you can apply and we'll meet with you. And I ended up actually getting the internship. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons there on my internship. I learned that artist brand is above style. One of my first projects there was a Valentine's Day e-card generator for an artist. And I did what I thought was expected of me. I did something clean, beautiful, something trendy at the time. And when I got the feedback back, it was, this is great, but this doesn't work for us. This doesn't fit the artist's brand. And I still use that to this day. I used it during my internship, but also even as recently as today, I made something really nice for an artist, but there's something about the lack of authenticity of that. He was like, hey, I don't want it to seem like I'm from a major label. I don't want it to make it seem like I lost touch. So can we do something a little bit, for the lack of the better word, crappy? So, it's the brand above your self-style. But I had a really fun time during my internship. I felt really supported by my internship advisor, Lena. And I also had like a blast there. Ed Sheeran gave me a glass of champagne and complimented my cat shirt. I didn't want to leave. I found myself doing things outside of the scope of what the position was. And this is what I wanted to do. This was, a new course for me. But, as things happen, the internship comes to an end, or it has to come to an end. So I'm working 16 hours, but I'm also interning 16 hours, and I have a full-time college schedule. So one day after finals, I'm taking a midnight train back to New Jersey because that's where I'm living at the time. And as the doors close, the head of the department walks into the train and he recognizes me. And we have a conversation. He says, I didn't know you lived in my hometown. To which I told him, I don't live in your hometown. I think you're on the wrong train. And that coincidence was where luck kind of plays in, because if this hadn't have happened, I'd probably be in a different place right now. We started talking about my career and where I wanted things to go. And he asked me if I was actually extending my internship. And I said I couldn't. I work 16 hours. I have a full-time schedule. I'm interning 16 hours as well. So he thinks for a bit and tells me, you know what, come to my office tomorrow. And then when I got to that office, he offered me a part-time job a year before graduating. And that eventually led to me becoming full-time on board. So as you can see here, I'm sure you're familiar with this. This is what my day looks like now. But I joined a team of 5 designers, 5 video producers, 3 project managers, and 1 in-house developer. And together, we work on executing the digital brand for 50 artists each across the internet. things like websites, ads, experience pages like sweepstakes, and photo booths. And I want to show you how we actually work as a team. Normally, this is how things should work. It isn't how it always works, but normally an artist comes to us basically with an idea or even just information like, hey, I'm at the recording studio. The album's coming out soon, or the album's coming out in a few years, but we still want to get something started here. So we work hand in hand with the digital marketing team to basically create these experiences for artists, send it back to them, and then there's a back and forth until eventually it goes to the development team, and then it goes into the real world, basically for you to see. This is how we want things to work. But as you know, normally that isn't how things end up working out. Uzi could decide to release an album right now, and we have to drop everything. We have to basically make a website without any assets in a matter of like hours, create a full campaign for this one album. And when things do end up working out the way we want it to work out, this is how we receive art. This is a Gucci Mane and Drake's both. And the art's usually made in Photoshop. So for the longest time there at Atlantic, our tool of choice was Photoshop. This is how we made websites, which is maybe wasn't exactly what people were doing back then. I know a lot of people, even when I was in college, were switching over to Illustrator or using Sketch, but that stuff didn't work for us because working with artists, there's a lot of effects that go into the actual art that they want to continue over the cover, but also the ads, and then the website as well. So for us to build something in Photoshop and then export everything and then put it somewhere else would take a long time, especially considering a lot of these albums, we get a moment's notice on this. And it worked for us for a long time. This was actually a great way to work for us because we can apply these effects. Here you can see a website for an artist, Blackjack, and he wanted a room with like glitchy effects to be his website. And I couldn't have done this in the amount of time allotted to me in anywhere else other than in Photoshop. So we had the freedom to make effects, but also we were part of the Adobe ecosystem. So we had years and years of templates, of tools in our Creative Cloud library that we just couldn't let go of. And that's not to say there weren't any downsides. There were a lot of downsides, especially, you guys probably know that explaining things over email now is harder than an interactive mock-up. JPEGs were really, really hard to explain functionality to management teams who weren't as tech savvy as we were. So a lot of the times management teams expected these JPEGs to be clickable. You don't know the amount of times that actually I've gotten a response saying, hey, the website you sent me is broken, when all I sent them was a JPEG. So that's something that needed to be fixed. But also, as hard as it was to communicate with the management team, it was even harder to communicate with the development team because that's the people you have to build things with. So you have to get down to the nitty gritty. And that's really hard to do via just JPEGs, or even a lot of our developers aren't in the same building as us, so over even a phone call or email. But also the biggest issue was literally that the files were huge. And here you can see Wiz Khalifa's website. This isn't even our biggest website. This is like a medium tier website for us at that time. And that website was 600 megabytes big. I did nothing to this website. I just opened it in XD, saved it out, and it went from 600 megabytes to about 40 megabytes. And we could feel our computers kind of starting to breathe a sigh of relief for the first time in years. This was a big game changer for us because we were working on many, many projects at the same time. And most of them have to be open on a computer at the same time. So you can imagine that Photoshop was having my iMac sound like an airplane. But that's not the only thing that helped us with XD. With the amount of speed that we have to get things done, the responsive resize really helped us get most of the way there when it came to doing mobile mockups and on top of desktop mockups. Sometimes we didn't have time to do them both. And now we basically have all the time in the world. Here you can see us using Repeat Grid to do tour pages, album pages. And it was also a lot easier to communicate with the development team about what we wanted to do here, and with management team about how we wanted to do it. So we could do things in Photoshop, in XD, that will take us hours in Photoshop. Here being the case, we're no longer caught off guard by the last minute album drops. We are implementing design systems to kind of help do things within minutes and have things prepared that still have the quality that we want in a matter of minutes. And one of the biggest things, if you recall back to my Blackjack page, is the ability to do these effects that you couldn't do in any other prototyping tool, like VHS glitch effects. And you could see that here. I started this in Photoshop and finished it in XD, and I didn't really have to do anything other than just save and open and then prototype. So something my friends could tell you about me is that I'm a really big fan of Charlie XCX. I was a big fan of hers, even when I was in college before working at the company. So I'm always pitching ideas for them to use for her. So you can imagine how excited I was when in 2018, we were gearing up for her album Charlie. And at the time, the single 1999 was released, and management team wanted to up Spotify streams in an engaging way for users. But we didn't want to recycle the art here. So what do we know? We know that the previous art looked like a little bit retro 90s futuristic. We have press photos, we have the music, we have the treatment, and I'm a fan, so I know what vibe I want to go with. So working hand in hand with the digital marketer, we actually came up with an idea to bring like the aura readings you can get in Chinatown, with combining that with a psychic hotline from the 90s, using Spotify's API to have a user take a photo, and then using Spotify's API to use your listening habits, and then it would export this color for you based on what you would listen to. And that was really difficult to explain to management teams, as you would expect, via just email. They're all the way in the UK. So how do we do this? And this is where XD really came to the rescue here. I did this in Photoshop. I started it in Photoshop, like I said before, but I added interactability here in XD. And I even did a full video treatment at that time, where I exported the frames and made a fake video here to kind of show management what we're thinking. And here, excuse the GIF quality, but here you could see what we sent to management. This is a prototype. You take the photo, and then it takes minutes to develop, and you get your aura reading. So we sent that over in hopes that they would pick it up, and they loved it. They ended up loving it so much that they actually got in touch with the Astro Twins to do a live IG reading with Charlie. But not just that, they even got them on board to basically do the color readings on the site. So if you go to the site, you can get a color reading from one of the Astro Twins, and then a photo, and then upload that photo. And here are the fans using the photos. They really loved that experience, and it ended up driving engagement up by 85%. So as you can see from that previous example, we didn't really use the album art here. We kind of got the vibe. We built this page based off of what the artist's brand was, without using the traditional art. And this has changed a lot from even when I was an intern. We gave this album art, which is important, a lot of importance, because it was this physical thing. But that experience isn't there anymore. It's gone from a 12 by 12 inch square to basically pixels on our screen. So our fans are interacting with the artist's brands on screen before they're ever even seeing the art. So what do we do? How do we make these ideas more immersive? And I just want to take you back here, hop on the Wayback Machine with me for a while. And I want to show you Missy Elliott's website in 2005, side by side with her album Creative. And you can see that they don't quite match up. You know, we don't know what's in that Flash player, you know, RIP Flash, but it's still nothing. It doesn't match. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's there's less thought put into it. And that was slowly evolving, even from when I started. If you recall, the idea or the feedback I got from my original idea. And then look at us now. This is our website now. The technology has allowed for us to do this, but also the prototyping tools. Look at the amount of art direction that has taken place. There's animation, there's video, but even something as small as a hashtag now has some sort of art direction to it. And it's a really exciting time because I'm now hopping on calls with artists about photo shoots specifically just for the website or just for digital platforms. Here you can see Rico Nasty, who is one of my favorite artists to work with because she gets so engaged in this, allowing the fans to like dress her up, but also, you know, cop the style, you know, live a little bit more in her world. Rico does things just for the website. We even implemented like a little fighting game on the navigation as a little like hidden secret. But as these things start to become more and more immersive, what's next? What are we going to do? How are we emerging the fans with the artist through the screens, especially now in the time of COVID? Well, one of the more obvious answers here is 3D and AR. You could see me here using XD's 3D prototyping tools to create this world for a band called Michelle. They're really cool. They came to me and they were just, you know, we want to bring this nostalgic feeling of being in the 2000s in this room and having all your stuff like all over the ground. So this is what we showed to the development team. This is what we showed to the management team about how we wanted things to kind of feel as far as depth goes. But then also using emerging tools like even Adobe Dimension, which is brand new to me. And I'm sure that you guys, once you're graduated, you'd probably be masters of this in no time. But staying on top of that, I did this this was just a flat image. And then we exported it as a 3D graphic and put it in an AR lens using one of these companies, Camera IQ, to make this AR lens. But there are also, you know, things that we need to study, things we need to do a little bit further. This isn't by us, but this is something I wish we'd done. The Weeknd has this Spotify integrated AI of himself, kind of like what we did with Charlie at the beginning, but it uses Spotify's API to basically extract what your listening habits are and give you a customized message. So we're looking into that. We're also looking into chat boxes and kind of updating our websites to match that. And also games, more and more games. Our fans love games, but it's also a way of basically expanding the life of the music, expanding the life of the album beyond just the music video, beyond just the music, and creating these immersive worlds. Again, Rico Nasty, she, you know, really wanted to do this game, so we are working with outside creatives to make these special graphics for fans to, you know, play and live in that world. And of course, more music. You know, it's a really exciting time here for me to be, you know, in this emerging interaction space when it comes to music and even in general. And I really hope that you guys, you know, learn something from how I got here, the history of the tools we use, how we're using XD, and what's to come. So I think I'm going to open up the floor for discussion here. But if you want to reach out to me at any time, if you have a question that I didn't answer, or, you know, think of a question later, you can catch me on Instagram at @champagnepoppy and Josh, and Twitter at Leonardo_Alex.
Thank you, Leonardo. Let's bring Tara up also, because I know she's been helping out in the chat here. Leonardo, the first question Tara wanted to push to you, and that's around Davis's question around GIF album covers coming in the future. What do you think of that idea?
I feel like that's always been something that we're like looking at, like animated album art, and that's actually, I mean, we're doing it in a way with Spotify. They have canvas images. Certain artists actually have animated art.
Nice. Tara, did you see any other questions that you had answered or want to bring back up to Leonardo?
I think, no, just a lot of love. You know, people were responding to what you were showing. There was so much. It was so chock full of beautiful interactivity and play. Even just your slides, I really loved it. I think, yeah, let's see. Does anybody have any other questions in the chat? Throw them up. Yeah, give us your Instagram again.
It's Champagne Poppy _ and Josh. So like Drake and Josh.
Yeah. Okay. Can we get that in the resources link?
Yeah, I can send that over.
I'll put it in the chat. Hopefully I didn't spell it wrong, but you let me know if I got that right.
No, that looks right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. You covered so much, Leo. I thought it was great. I could do another 30 minutes. Sorry, you did that just right, but I should have offered you more time.
It's all good.
It's all good. I'd be happy to come back.
Thank you.
Right.
There's a couple of questions popping up. We do have time. Can you guys see the chat window?
Let's see. I'm checking it out.
Tyler and Alexandra.
Oh, cool. Let's see. Alexandra says, I am a video editor and a film major. Would you recommend me learning UX design as another potential career option? I think that's a pretty sweet pairing.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like I've talked about like not pigeonholing yourself. So like if that's something you want to do, that's totally helpful. And then, you can also, make these. You can even make an interactive, like, movie or interactive music video if like you learn these skills.
Yeah. Tyler has a question. Do you think a social strategist would also be a position to create content and websites like your company does?
Yeah, I mean, we work with with strategists hand in hand to make our websites and figure out what the patterns of how fans are using things and interacting on socials. So yeah.
Cool. And somebody, Elijah, just followed you. Really great, wonderful presentation, as Elijah says. Okay, I think we are good, and we're just at time, right?
Yeah, we are. Both of you. Nice, fantastic job. And I think students will be contacting you after the fact. Thanks for sharing your contact info.
Yeah, of course.
Tara, thanks for all the links. Everybody, all the content that Tara mentioned already is in the resources tab. So page on over bottom left of your user interface and check that out. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So grab a water, snack, or what have you. In 5 minutes, we're going to jump into better storytelling with Adobe Premiere Pro. We've got Jonathan from Adobe, but also Brittany, a filmmaker and video editor. And we're going to have a special announcement regarding an upcoming session that you won't want to miss. So hope to see you back in just 4 minutes, and we'll see you then.